There are, of course, other groups lobbying on behalf of Israel in Britain, in addition to BICOM and the Conservative and Labour Friends of Israel. There's the Jewish Leadership Council, the Zionist Federation, and the Board of Deputies of British Jews. Aside from seeking to influence politicians and opinion formers, which is the stock and trade of any lobby, some members of the pro-Israel lobby are also especially aggressive towards British television and the press.
I have spoken to editors who just say, actually, it's just not worth the trouble. I stay away from I stay away from the subject, or I stay away from stirring it up.
The BBC and The Guardian are portrayed as being the biggest media enemies of Israel that exist, maybe in Europe, but certainly in the UK.
And the lobby keeps them under constant attack.
Well, it's off the scale in terms of Israel. I mean, I see other ambassadors, but I can't. I'm trying to see if I can remember ever being carpeted or taken to task seriously over our coverage of countries, and I'm offhand I can't think of one.
It's an evening in February 2006. At the Israeli ambassador's residence in London, a special meeting is taking place. Present are the Israeli ambassador, Bochu Zabludovics, Henry Grunwald, who was president of the British Board of Deputies, and property magnate Gerald Ronson. They're unhappy with the two-part article by The Guardian's Middle East correspondent, Chris McGreal, who has compared Israeli occupation of the West Bank with apartheid in South Africa. They decide that Henry Grunwald and Gerald Ronson will pay Rusbridger a visit.
Their pitch was that The Guardian was encouraging anti-Semitism to the extent that it was effectively an incitement to violence against Jews in Britain. Henry Grunwald's a very bright barrister and made the case in a perfectly straightforward way. And then Ronson, who was the kind of sort of heavy on the occasion, began by saying, I think his phrase was, I've always said, opinions are like arseholes, everyone's got one. And then he effectively said, I'm in favour of free speech, but there is a line which can't be crossed. And as far as I'm concerned, you've crossed it. And you must stop this.
There's Ronson telling you you've been fomenting attacks on Jews. What do you say to him?
I just said, I'd be interested in the evidence. I'm not sure how you make that causal connection between somebody reading an article that's critical of the foreign policy of Israel and then thinking, why don't I go out and mug Jews on the streets of London? I mean, I just can't believe that happens.
On top of the visit to the Guardian's offices, a lengthy complaint against McGreal's articles was made to the Press Complaints Commission by an American pro-Israel media watchdog called Camera, with a reputation for aggressively complaining against what it claims is anti-Israel reporting. In the end, the Press Complaints Commission found only one small fact to be wrong.
Nobody could shake the facts on it, but it was nevertheless regarded as something that just should not have been published.
The views of those who criticise The Guardian are not shared by the entire British Jewish community.
In the occupied territories, Israel is an apartheid state. There's no two ways about it. When settlers travel on one road and Palestinians have to use another road, when settlers are governed by Israeli law and Palestinians are governed by military law, you are talking about apartheid.
What sort of reaction are you expecting when the pro-Israeli lobby notes your conversation in this film?
Oh, they'll say, oh, there goes Goldberg, the anti-Zionist, self-hating Jew again. I'm quite sure.
In fact, we've found that by no means all Britain's 300,000 Jews are happy for the pro-Israel lobby groups to represent their views. Tony Lehrman used to be director of the London-based Institute for Jewish Policy Research. Today, he's a regular Guardian contributor.
Some of these bodies like to present themselves as representing all of Jewish opinion and don't take into account the diversity of opinion in this country. And I mean, that's one of the criticisms that people from within the Jewish community who are critics of Israel level at the Israel lobby, that there is this tendency to make it look as if all Jews feel one way about Israel, when in fact there's a lot of different opinion about Israel.
There is a split in the Jewish community about Israel. The leaders tend to be blindly pro-Israeli. The Israel lobby does represent a narrow right-wing agenda, but it is not representative of the entire Jewish community.
Nonetheless, we found that calling critics of Israel's foreign policy anti-Semitic has become a deliberate tactic among some of Israel's more strident lobby groups. Here's an example from a blog based in New York. Its sole purpose is to scrutinize the Guardian's Comment is Free website. Hawkeye, the mystery man who says he runs it, told the Jewish Chronicle,
besides the fact that CIF features a long list of anti-Zionists, including many Jewish anti-Zionists, its comment threads are full of vile anti-Semitic sentiments. How do you react to that?
I think it would be a terribly dangerous thing if the British press were made to feel that they couldn't criticise Israel because they're going to be held up as anti-Semite. I think it's a very disreputable argument.
I've been having a look through the Comment is Free Watch website. Here's what it's got to say about an article by Tony Lerman. It says that Lerman is making despicable, libelous and completely unsubstantiated allegations about Jews. It says, that's anti-Semitic and he's a nasty anti-Semite. I asked Tony Lerman what he feels about Hawkeye's comments.
It's upsetting, but one gets over it. I think there are people who are deliberately manipulating the use of the term anti-Semitism because they do see that it's useful in defending Israel.
It might well be that some critics of Israel are seriously anti-Semitic. OK, deal with them on the case. Others are voicing a genuine feeling which should be respected and does not make them anti-Semitic.
I've been accused in certain newspapers because I've been talking to Hamas and Hezbollah of being anti-Semitic, and I just take that with a pinch of salt.
In part 3, Dispatches investigates, has the BBC been compromised by the pro-Israel lobby? Dispatches has been investigating how Britain's pro-Israel lobby exercises its influence and financial muscle today in Westminster, and how critics of Israel